Hi everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Just Good Games. Today I will be ranking the Demon's Souls remake bosses from easiest to hardest. They're mostly hard, but there are some easy ones. Now this is obviously my personal opinion on the matter. You might have found a boss which I found hard, easy, or vice versa. If you did, then let me know in the comments below. Also, I knew a bit about the Demon's Souls remake before I played it, so I knew some of the tips and tricks to get through some of these bosses, so that's probably why I might have found something which you found hard a bit easy, as I knew how to take it down. So obviously there's going to be minor spoilers because I will be talking a little bit about how to take them down. Now before we crack into it, I would just like you to go down there and hit that subscribe button please, give this video a like and obviously share it everywhere. Well, without further ado, let's crack on with my Demon's Souls remake boss ranking, easiest to hardest. As I said earlier, I knew some of the game's twists and turns and obviously tips and tricks due to years of studying Souls lore. So this boss, King Allen's, was not really a surprise to me. The cutscene before though was amazing and epic and glorious in 4K, which would have been an amazing bait and switch if I had no idea about this, but alas, it was not to be. The this I'm referring to is that this is the real King Allen's, and after having faced this mega boss who you think's the final boss, you come up against this just disgusting slug, the true king, whose quest for power has left him like disfigured in a disgusting slug. This is such an easy boss and a very nice subversion of the expectations on a big final boss, I thought. But obviously all we can do is lunge at you and you'd have to almost lose on purpose to lose this battle. So that's why he is bottom. He is a very easy boss. Next up we have the Storm King, and once again I sort of knew the strategy for this before I went into it. I knew I had to go get that Stormbreaker sword, I think it's called the Stormbreaker, from having played Dark Souls 3, and that makes an appearance there. So as soon as you get that sword, there's not really much to do but to just avoid what the other like manta things floating around are shooting at you, avoid the Storm Kings and just throw that Stormbreaker at him, like throw some hits at him, and in about 6 or 7 or 8 hits he's down. I don't think I died on this one, so this is why the Storm King comes in at 16. The old hero is another quite easy boss once you know what you're doing, and I actually didn't know what I was doing based on any prior knowledge. I figured this out for myself. You can sort of see that he's blind and he's stumbling around, and you can run around and make a bit of noise and he'll come for you. So I thought, oh, I have a thief's ring which allows me to not be detected, and I was using it quite a bit up until this point anyway. So having that on, it made it even easier for me to take this boss down. All you have to do is run up behind him, give him a couple whacks, run away and rinse and repeat until he is taken down. So that is why he's down this low. It'll probably be okay even without the thief's ring on, but putting that on makes this boss so easy, and that is why he is down so low. It's a great boss design though, and you can obviously tell with this game that they're trying to figure out what makes a good boss battle, and it makes the boss battles in this game a bit experimental and a bit gimmicky, and this definitely falls into this category. There's quite a few bosses in this game where a good phrase to describe them would be kill it with fire. The Leechmonger is one of those. I had a fire weapon equipped at this point and I found it so easy to chop through the Leechmonger. He obviously can do a bit of damage by like sucking your health out with his leeches, but if you've got anything to do with fire equipped, just go up to him and just take him down. All these bosses up to this point I don't even think I died at, so that's sort of the level of easy we got here. The Leechmonger has a cool design, and like the bosses before, it looks really cool, but is once again very easy to take down. Just kill it with fire. Next up we have the Adjudicator, and now we're in the point where I died a couple times and it took me a little while to figure out how to take these bosses down. The Adjudicator has a gold bird on the top of his head and he's a big bastard. So you're obviously thinking that bird must be a weak point, but how can I get to that bird? Well, if you drop down to him, which I didn't do to start off with, I thought to like shoot some arrows at him, but it didn't do enough damage, so I decided to drop down, and I was getting hit by his big tongue as well, which is probably his most devastating attack. But if you drop down and you see he's got a wound on the side of him, whack that wound a couple times, 2, 3, 4 times, and he crumbles, and you can attack that bird on the top of his head. Once you figure this out, it is quite an easy boss. He's very slow, very easy to maneuver around, and yeah, that's all I can really say about it. Just attack the wound, fall down, attack the bird. Quite an easy boss. We're not into the really hard difficulty yet. Well, there's definitely a jumping quality at some point, and I will let you know, but this is not that point. Next up, we have what I'm calling the first boss in the game. I didn't put the first sort of boss encounter in this, as you're meant to sort of just die at that first boss, like in many Souls games, so I didn't include it. So I'm counting Phalanx as the first boss, and it took me a few goes to get down, but once again I'm going to repeat that phrase: kill it with fire. And there's loads of hints that you need fire up until this point. Like the first stage, you get loads of I think it's pine resin, which you can put on your sword to give it fire, and you get a load of fire bombs. So just launch all your fire bombs at him. Equip, like, put the pine resin, I think it's pine resin, don't hold me to that, on your sword, and just attack all his little things. Once you attack all his little things, little minions, he's there just to take down and whack at, and as soon as you do that, the Phalanx is down. Again, quite an easy boss, but being early on in the game took a few tries because you're still getting used to mechanics. Even a Souls veteran like myself still struggled, but found this a bit more difficult than some of the later on bosses where I had got used to it. The Fool's Idol can be a bit of a bugger if you don't realise you have to take out that bastard up the top who's casting spells, because I took down the Fool's Idol 3 times and it came back. This is why it's quite high, because if you don't know it, it can be a difficult and frustrating boss. You will get frustrated and think, what the hell do I need to do, or has this game glitched out, when it doesn't give you the Demon Vanquish and you go out and you come back in and the Fool's Idol's still there. But besides that, it is quite a basic boss battle. Obviously it makes copies of itself and you have to figure out what copy to take down, but there's a load of pillars you can hide behind as it shoots stuff at it, and once you figure out what copy to attack, just attack it a couple times, rinse and repeat. The Fool's Idol really isn't that difficulty, it's just that little trick, little gimmick which puts it this high up, because if you don't figure that out, then this can be a very frustrating boss. This has almost become like a boss guide at the moment, so yeah, if you find these tips useful, then cool. Next up we have the Dirty Colossus, and the Dirty Colossus is very much like the Leechmonger. Kill it with fire. It's in the next area from that Archstone, but what sets this apart from the Leechmonger is it shoots a load of like flies or something at you, which drains your health, and you have to go up into these fire things to get it away. This can be very frustrating, but again, if you have a fire weapon, just go up to it, whack it with fire, and it should be alright. But all you have to do is avoid those avoid the flies and the poison which it shoots at you, and it does occasionally shoot that out of its body when you're going to attack it. So just remember to roll away there. And again, this is now in the middle of the road. This is a very middle of the road boss. It did take me 2 or 3 attempts, but overall, again, we're not at that level yet where the difficulty really jumps. These are still very manageable bosses for someone like me who's a Souls veteran. Maybe if you haven't played the Souls games before, you don't know what's going on, these could be a bit higher. But we will crack on now with the next boss. Maiden Estrella is a very cool boss, a very cool design in the fact that obviously she summons a champion and you have to take the champion down. The champion can be quite difficult. It can regain its health. It's like a normal enemy almost, but a bit more powered up, and it just sort of blocks your path. Obviously you could shoot Maiden Estrella from far away if you want, which kills her, and as soon as you take down her champion, She kills herself, which is quite poetic when you know the lore. And it's just, again, a middle of the road boss. The champion's not too bad, as it just sort of stands there and you can whack it a few times. It does pack a punch though, so you've got to get into avoiding her champion. But again, not too difficult. And we're already at number 9, and you can see why people call this the easiest Souls games, even though the areas are probably a bit more trickier. And some of the bosses, getting to some of these bosses are probably harder, and that is true for like Maiden Strider, Leechmonger, and the Dirty Colossus, and the Storm King and the Old Hero. They are all in areas which are probably harder than the actual boss. So let's move on. We're nearly at the jumping quality soon, but there's a couple more to come. So next up, number 8, we're sort of in the middle area now, is the Dragon God. And the Dragon God is a bit of a puzzle. He's a gimmicky puzzle boss. You don't really take him down. It's more traversing the area and avoiding his attacks, getting to those big ballistas and firing at him. It took me a good 10 attempts to get it down, because you've really got to get the timing down and get the trick down when he's not looking, and when he shoots the fire, sometimes going backwards is better than going forward. But once you figure it out, and once you're able to traverse the level, he's not that difficult really, but he's sort of in the middle, because it took me a lot more attempts at him than it did any of the bosses before. So that is why the Dragon God, although a very, very cool design, an absolutely banging design, massive boss, is a bit of a tiny disappointment when you think about it. But we'll move on. Right, so the Old Monk, there's a bit of a caveat to this one. The Old Monk is a really cool concept. It summons a real human player who has been waiting to take you on in his place, which is really cool. And the difficulty in this boss battle all depends who you've got, how high a leveled you are up until this point. As I said, it's a human player, it's so random. You could absolutely batter this person, but it took me 3 or 4 attempts, and I got really hard and difficult people summoned. I had one where I actually didn't get a person summoned, and it was the like the generic one you get, and I think I did do it on that attempt, which says a lot about the quality of people that can be summoned in. But this is why it's not in the top tier. But we're about to get to the big jump, and the Old Monk is a really cool concept, and he's so random. So this could be near the bottom of some people's, and this could be at the top of some people's. So that's why it's nearly slap bang in the middle. Next we have the Armor Spider. It's a cool design. It's an absolute ass to get past these webs which he shoots at you. They really slow you down. But in all honesty, I was at quite a high level at this point, and I was able to tank this boss to a degree. Its attacks didn't do as much to me. I was able to heal in the fire, and I just kept hitting at it. But I appreciate how difficult this can be, as it took me quite a few attempts. I had to really go out, level up and grind, and once I sort of grinded and got to a good level, I was just able to sort of tank my way through it. But I can appreciate how difficult this can be, and this is why this is the jump now. This is the quality. The harder bosses are now coming up, and next up we've got a bloody hard one. Number 5 is the Tower Knight. This is probably the second boss which you might take on in the game. After you do Phalanx, you might go through and you'll get to the Tower Knight. He is difficult. He is like the Adjudicator and the Old Hero if they were actually difficult. He's got weak points, the back of his legs, ankles, and you've got to go and hit him to get him down. But his attacks are so good and have a very big range that you can only hit him a couple times, and his attacks are devastating. This is what makes it difficult. Also what makes it difficult is you have these 6 or 7 archers shooting at you, so I recommend taking them out first. If you could attack the ankles well, he will fall down, and you can attack his head a bit like the Adjudicator. And you probably need to do this twice to take him down, but the reason he's so high is because his attacks are devastating. They've got a long range, and it actually takes a bit to get him knocked down. It takes quite a few hits. Also, I took this on quite early, so it was very, very difficult. But I managed it, and it was one of the most rewarding bosses I have taken down in this game. The Penetrator, what a funny name, but an absolutely awesome boss battle. There's not really many human-y boss battles in this game up until later on in the game, and this is one of the more human-y Bloodborne style bosses, I would say. You can see this almost as a precursor to some of the Bloodborne bosses. He's quick, but only has about 4 or 5 attacks, but those attacks are devastating. You've got to learn them attacks, you've got to learn them attacks well, and once you do that, it's doable. But it took me a lot of attempts to take him down. His attacks, as I said, are devastating. He has a lunge where he lunges into you, picks you up and throws you down. That does absolutely mega damage. It's such a cool design, a funny name, and an absolutely arse to take down. Now there is an easier way to take him down, and that is there is a side character who will come and help you if you do specific things. I managed to do this on my second attempt through the game, and it was a lot easier, but from my first attempt, taking him on my own was an absolute arse. As I said, he's quick, devastating attacks, got a bit of range, but if you learn his attacks, he should be alright, but he's definitely worthy of his 4th spot. Number 3 is the Man-Eater. Some people put this as their top boss. I think there's a couple more. Obviously, there's 2 more, judging by the ranking, that I think are difficult. But you think you're doing alright, you get in there, there's only one of them. You hit it a few times, you avoid it, you're like, this is alright, I could actually beat this. And then the second one comes, and it's like, game on. That's what makes it so difficult. There's 2 of them, and their attacks are so erratic. And where you are also, you can get knocked off so easily from their erratic attacks. Half the battle of this is not falling off. But once you take one down, it gets a lot easier. You just have to sort of stay in the centre, circle around, pick your spots, and also you can chop the tails off, which helps, as it means they can't shoot stuff at you. But this took me a lot of attempts. As I said, half a battle is staying on the platform. They have erratic attacks, they have some devastating attacks. It's just a cool boss though, and it's difficult. As I said, some people put this as their top, but I found it a bit more easier than the top 2, which we'll be cracking on with now. The Old King has one of the cheapest and most devastating moves in all the Souls series. The fact that he can remove a soul level and even do it multiple times in the fight is just horrible. And it's probably best that they've never added this power to another boss in any of their games. I went from level 80 to 73, so that tells you all you need to know about how difficult he was. He's also got some powerful moves, including an area engulfing charge up move, but due to being trained to run away from these kind of moves from other games, almost one-shotted me a few times. Once I found out you had to break the charge up, it got a bit better. I survived by the skin of my teeth on this boss battle. He has about 5 or 6 moves, and once you learn them though, it is a doable fight. But if you make one wrong move, it is over. He can throw wind at you, and he's so quick with his sword. He's a true challenge and a proper final-ish boss. I count him sort of as the final boss, not the slug guy. But it is so difficult. He's such a cool design. The music is epic. You're at the top of the castle. It's so cool. Great boss battle. Hard boss battle. So you probably guessed it by now, and yes, the Flame Lurker is the boss I found the most difficult in the Demon's Souls remake. He was a major roadblock in my first playthrough, and when I beat him, for a while, the bosses that came after fell very quickly due to the amount of grinding I had to do to beat him. Like the Old King, he is quick, powerful, and has a nice variety of moves. One wrong move again and you can be caught in a sequence of moves that ends in a quick death. What sets him apart from the Old King though is he is much more aggressive, and if you don't have a fire resistant ring, you're going to have an even harder time. The area has fire spots that can do additional damage as well. Although this is a hard fight, it is a fair fight. It's difficult but fair, and rewards you, like the King, for learning his moves and learning how to dodge them. It's just the execution then, and that takes a bit of doing. So thank you for watching my Demon's Souls remake boss ranking, easiest to hardest. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Now all you need to do is hit that subscribe button, hit that like, share this video. We have Twitch now. Come watch Just Good Games 18 on Twitch for some streams. Follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, and once again, you have been watching Just Good Games.